monthly gross pay is 22,000. My weekly net pay would be 4,100.
Yeah, it's for about 4,100, 4,000. Oh, you said, oh, that's a week.
Yeah, that's a week.
Shit. What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel and our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. In our last episode, we had Nasima on the episode. Nasima is one of the richest nurses that I've met so far. If you want to learn about backdoor Roth IRAs, 457Bs, renting out your car through Turo, and other investment hacks, make sure you go watch that video. But today we have a guest on the show that has been a longtime follower of ours and a very active member on our Discord server, Les. The reason I wanted to have Les on our channel is because he seems to be very meticulous about tracking his finances and increasing his savings. You're going to be blown away by the amount of money he is saving as a nurse. And that's exactly why I have him on the show today. So, Les, please introduce yourself. Let us know what state you work in and what led you to become a nurse.
All right. Hey, guys, I'm Les. I'm originally from Georgia, but as of now, thanks to discovering Jason's channel approximately about a year ago, I am now working in the Bay Area in California, where, you know, as Jason says, and it's not a joke, pay is way better than other U.S. states. I'm 27, and I'm currently a travel nurse that works in the operating room.
Okay. And how long ago did you say that you moved to California?
It's been about 3 months now, because I'm just about to complete my first contract at the hospital I'm currently at, and I just extended contract.
Wow. And where did you work before that? Like, what state did you work in?
Before that, I was actually in Chicago for about 6 months during their winter. I'm from the South, so I'm not used to the snow, having to dig out my own parking spot. But yeah, I was in Chicago for 6 months on my first travel assignment. You know, it was pretty nice. But before that, I was in Georgia, had worked in Atlanta for a couple of years. And before that, I had worked in rural North Georgia in a small community hospital.
So you were in Georgia, then you went to Chicago after that?
Yeah, basically. I was only in Chicago for a few months, just doing my first assignment. But this was like at the peak of COVID, when travel assignments were like at all-time highs in December.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the video with Hervé, but he was making like $7K a week is what he told me. Yeah. How much were you making when you first started out during the pandemic?
Unfortunately, wait, when you mean pandemic, you mean 2020?
At the beginning, at the height of the pandemic.
All right. So at the height of the pandemic, which would have been like March 2020, I was probably making $33, $34 an hour as a staff nurse in Atlanta, Georgia.
So that was your first job though, right?
That was actually my second job. My first job, which was in 2017, when I had just graduated nursing school, I was actually making $19.50 an hour as a new grad nurse. And I made that for about a year.
When you were making $19 an hour, did you think that was kind of low for a nurse?
No. So I definitely knew it was low. But the thing is, that unit I had worked as a tech for about a year while I was in nursing school. And I was basically guaranteed a job as long as, you know, I stayed there, did good. And I felt like I would receive good training there. I knew all the people there. I knew the doctors I was going to work with. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. I knew if I went somewhere else, I'd probably make $1 or $2 more. So I was like, you know, let's just go where I'm at, where I'm familiar with. And, you know, at the end, it actually worked out pretty great with me. You know, it could have been dumb, you know, losing out on a couple grand a year or that first year as a new grad. But I feel like the investment was worth it. And that's what I saw it as. And that's why I took it.
Yeah. You know, you're 100% right. It is an investment. But you know what's unfortunate, though? It's like that employers know that nurses are willing to take pay that is that low because they know it's just like a stepping stone to the rest of their career. So it is unfortunate because they don't raise the salaries knowing that nurses will take those jobs, you know, because I don't know if you saw, I think it was last year or maybe like a year and a half ago, there was this nurse that I think she works in Georgia or Alabama, one of those states. And she said that she was going to leave her nursing job to work at Target because Target was going to be paying more than her nursing job.
See, especially if you're working like in a rural area in the South, which I'm familiar with. Yeah, you're basically making at most $23, $24, even with a couple of years experience. And, you know, my goal was just to get those 2 years there, not worry, because I was living with my parents, not worry too much about the paycheck, and then move on to my next job. And that's what I did, moving to Atlanta, where I went from $23.50 an hour to $33 in one job change.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
Yeah, which, you know, at the time I was 23, 24. I was like, oh yeah, let me take this job.
dude. Yeah, you're right. You got to think about it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how much do you earn now?
All right, so now right now I'm making $140 an hour. Unfortunately, when I extended, at the current hospital I am, they dropped me down a few dollars an
Hold on a
hour.
second. Hold on a second. We need to pause. You said you're making $140 an hour?
Yes,
That is
$140 an hour.
insane. Yeah.
And the neat thing about that is, as a travel nurse, you're entitled to stipends, which is tax-free money. Depending on where you're located at, the amount varies. When I was in Chicago, my stipend was $1,400 a week, so that's $1,400 of tax-free money. You know, you're supposed to use it for your living expenses and all that.
Yeah.
And right now, being in the Bay Area, specifically where I'm at, it changes throughout the Bay. I'm receiving about $2,200 in tax-free stipends, which is a lot of money to receive tax-free.
Wow. Yeah. So break this down for me. There's many people that want to get into travel nursing, but they don't understand how the tax-free money works and then the taxed amount of money. So you're making $140 an hour. Does that include the stipend?
Yeah. So that's basically includes the stipend. Okay. Like, you know, when I break down what my, I guess, weekly gross pay is by how many hours I work, it's 140. So that includes the stipend. Because if you were not even to include that stipend with that, that'd be like 160, 170. I'm guessing right there, but it's something like that. With the stipend, it's 140. I want to say I'm taxed at $87 an hour, and the rest is basically stipend, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that makes sense now. Okay. So when you are looking for a travel job, what is like your minimum requirement? What kind of things are you looking for that you need to make sure this hospital or this contract meets before you accept that travel contract?
Basically, I'm really not too picky. I think I'm more of a let's work, let's do it, let's do whatever. But as far as my picks, I would say I have to be, and you know, right now the operating room is actually one of the highest paying assignments you get, or departments as a traveler. Any procedural units such as endoscopy, cath lab, OR. I might be missing a few others, but basically my minimum requirements as of now is I want to be making at least 5K. I don't mind working 36, 40 hours. Shoot, I prefer to work some overtime on top of that. So, you know, some overtime availability. And as long as it's in a major city, I don't have too much of a preference. And, you know, luckily Bay Area has San Jose, Oakland, San Francisco to choose from. But right now I'm in a suburb in the Bay Area.
And are you working 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts? What are your shifts like?
So I'm working 8-hour shifts right now. You know, when I was in Chicago, I was working 10-hour shifts. I prefer 10-hour shifts. It's not too big of a deal. I live really close to the hospital. I'm working days as of now, but I'm about to switch to evening shift that I volunteered for some reason. But I think I'm doing it, you know, just to get used to it in the future. If I were to get a staff job, you know, I don't know when I'm gonna get one.
And how many days a week?
I work 5 days a week. Yeah.
5 days a week.
I work my 40 hours.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed that's a common theme amongst OR nurses. They work usually about 40 hours a week. Yeah. But do you get paid the time and a half after 8 hours in one day?
See, I'm not too sure about that. As far as I know, I think I do. I know it because, you know, it depends on your contract too. Depending on what your contract says and depending on how the pay works, you could be getting paid after your initial shift ends, you know, if you stay late, or after 40 hours. But then also working in the OR, you could be on call. Call can start as soon as your shift ends. So, you know, it generally depends on what your contract says. As far as I'm aware, my contract states I should be making overtime as soon as my shift ends. So if I stay late after my shift, that's when overtime kicks in, even if I've worked less than 40 hours already.
And do they actually have overtime in the OR? Because I know many nurses say there's not that much overtime available when you're an OR nurse.
So that's what I was told when I was first here. They're like, oh, well, at other hospitals in the Bay Area, the call pay is so good. They're, you know, as far as my hospital goes, it's about half of what the nurse's hourly wage is. So to be on call, you're making half of what you're making just to be actually working at the hospital. And so people are fighting for that call hours at these hospitals. And it usually goes to the nurses who have been there longest. I guess that has to do more with the union. So whoever has seniority gets to pick, I guess, their call, whatever. And then, you know, it just falls on down the line. In Georgia, where I work, it was the opposite. You're getting paid $3 an hour. Who wants to be on call for $3 an hour?
Yeah.
And so, you know people are trying to give it away.
It's like the nurses at Kaiser. Any nurse who works in a procedural unit, when they're on call, they get paid time and a half for 3 hours minimum. But if they get called in and they actually show up to the hospital, they'll get paid time and a half for at least 3 hours, even if they're only there for an hour or 2 hours of the procedure. But if they stay the entire shift, they get paid time and a half the entire shift that they're there, and then obviously they'll earn time and a half from the 8th hour to the 12th hour and then double time after that. But yeah, that's how it works for Kaiser. But yeah, the fact that you guys can earn money while you're sitting home, being on a call list is pretty cool in my opinion. And you actually earn that as a traveler?
No, I don't get that. My traveler call pay sucks. But that's the thing is they don't make me take much call. Like it's not even much call. It's more like, well, if we need you and and we need people to stay late, will you do it? I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm making the overtime rate, so it's not a big deal to me. And I'm already there. And usually at most they only make me stay an hour, which is not that bad.
Wow.
And it gives me a little bit extra spending money.
Yeah. Wait, so how old are you now?
So I'm 27, but I'm about to turn 28.
Wow. Because, the reason why I wanted to have you on this episode is because I saw you're always posting your pie chart of how much you've earned or how much you're saving. You break down your expenses and your investments and your savings rate. And I'm like, damn, he's saving that much.
So,
but, 140 an hour, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So I had made a Google sheet earlier this year when I was in Chicago. The hospital I worked at was slow, so I had plenty of time to learn other stuff. So I learned how to make work on Excel and all that. And so I made myself a personal spending chart, whatever, and how I break down all that. It looks ugly. I got it.
No, dude, look, I eat that stuff up. It was like, I'm a numbers guy. So when I see stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I love seeing these numbers. It makes me like think about what can we do, me and Monica, to improve our savings rate. And I'm like, man, you're 27 years old, right? And you're a traveler and you're making, $140 an hour. But Monica and I combined, we're making more than that, right? And I'm like, I have no excuse, because you're saving 50% of your income. That's huge. That is really huge.
Another thing is you have a family. It's just me. I can live as cheap as I want to. Like right now, my unit is probably as small as it could be. I'm still paying a good for this unit, especially where I'm at in the Bay Area. I'm paying $2,000 for a room in a house. It's got its own bathroom and all that. But, if I were to have to bring my, like a kid, I guess a wife, we wouldn't be able to live in this. Like I can step one step that way, I'm on my bed. 2 steps that way, I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah, but you know what?
By myself.
What you're doing right though is that you're setting yourself up for a situation that when you do end up getting married or you do end up having children, you won't even have to worry about money.
Yeah, you can take a part-time job. You don't have to. You're not forced to have to do something because you need it to, I guess, spend for the mortgage, whatever. And I totally agree with that. I'm in a really good situation that I'm taking full advantage of.
But why is it that you're saving so much money right now? Do you plan to retire early? Do you just want to be like financially independent? What is it exactly?
So it's a little bit both, So having that idea of being financially independent is nice. Even with how much money I have now, I could be like, well, if I really hate this job, I could just walk away and I could live off savings for a while. I don't want to do that. I want to see those savings continue to increase.
Absolutely.
But, I don't have to put up with a lot of BS. And, in the future, when my savings increase even more, I don't have to put up with any BS that I see unnecessary. And if I have a family, say, as of now, I'm not wanting to have a family in my 20s, say in my late 30s, whatever, early 40s, I could afford to work part-time at that point. What I'm thinking I'm going to be making at that point is right. I should be fine working part-time. Maybe I won't be saving as much, but I won't be digging into my savings.
Yeah, makes sense.
Spend time with your family, your wife, your kids, yada, yada, family.
Absolutely. Dude, I think about that all the time because like right now, the reason I'm not picking up overtime is because, my base working hours is 20 hours a week. Ever since our son came into the picture, I'm like, man, I just want to be home. I want to see him grow. I don't want to be working all the time. And I feel like I burned myself out because I don't know if you saw previously, I was working runs. So I was working like 16 days in a row, 19 days in a row. And it wasn't that hard. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't that hard because I was only coming in for 4 hours on my days off. But the fact that I couldn't see my son during the time that I was at work, I'm like, man, this is not cool. So I ended up taking off my last portion of my paternity leave from like March to May. And when I returned from my vacation, because we went to the Maldives, New York, and all these other places, I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed the time that I had off. I got to spend it with my family. So when I returned to work, I am not picking up any hours. I've actually only picked up like 6 hours in total since May of this year,
Oh
just
wow.
because of that.
Uh,
But, and then part of that is my mom, she was living with us from like
mhm.
last year in September or August all the way up to May. And she left in May to go to my sister's house in New York City. So we have not had any additional help in the house since she
Yeah.
left. So I had to pick up the slack, you know, but she's coming back in October, and I'm definitely going to be picking up overtime once she returns. I won't have to be watching my son while I'm off from work, and I won't be exhausted from that, you know?
See, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to, I guess, plan for in
Yeah.
the future, where I don't have to be in that situation where I won't have help. I mean, I might have it. Why plan for the best situation? But
So
yeah.
is all of your family in Georgia?
Yeah, basically my whole immediate family is in Georgia or in the New Jersey area. I don't really have family here in California, so
Gotcha. And what is your current net worth? I want to get into the money details now.
All
I know
right, so
you
my
like this part.
I remember I told you once, I was like, I really don't want to look at my net worth because, especially with the market crash in January, February,
Yeah,
how it is currently. I was like, oh, do I really want to
I
look at a
know.
bunch of negative numbers?
Yeah.
But as of now, I think my net worth should be about 200,000.
Wow. And you're 27, right?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, dude, I was like negative, I don't know, 80,000 when I was 27.
Yeah, fortunately, I was in a good situation throughout college where I received scholarships to attend nursing school. Didn't have any student loans. I think out of pocket, I paid a few thousand to get my BSN. So maybe
Wow.
three to 5,000. I don't know the exact number, but basically, I didn't have to take out loans.
Jeez, dude, and
My
you were living
parents.
with your parents,
Yeah,
so
I
that
was living
helped.
with my parents.
Yeah.
I worked a couple jobs, but I didn't have to work full time. I was just working part time just to, pay for like personal stuff. So very fortunate situation I was in where I didn't need to worry too much about things. So
You know what? I've noticed a common theme. Okay, for those of you that don't want to be in debt when you graduate from nursing school, just move in with your parents.
and yeah, people don't, but I say that too, but not everyone has that fortunate
Yeah,
situation where you can live
it's
with your
true.
parents. I luckily happened to live close to a college, 30 minutes away where my parents lived. I had a good relationship with my family, so I didn't worry about it. I lived with them until I was 24, and I had a good amount of savings. I think, I said as soon as I made, I guess, my first 60K saved,
Yeah.
it's when I'll move out. And that's what I did.
Wow.
As soon as I
Dude.
received 60K, I'm like, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
move out. Let's start looking for a job somewhere else where I can make more money.
And aside from your savings rate, do you have any investments? Do you have a 401k, 403b?
So yeah, this is probably gonna be the first year I actually maximized my 401k. I think last year I got to like 12,000. I probably should have just maximized it too, but I didn't. I think currently in my 401ks I have probably about 40,000 saved up. IRA I probably have about 10, 11,000. I can't actually contribute this year because I'm actually probably gonna make too much, which it's a good thing. But also it kind of sucks. But I had contributed the past 2 years 12,000 in total. It went down, and then HSA I probably have a few thousand, maybe 5,000 total. So
you got to start doing like Nasima does and just do a backdoor Roth IRA.
see, okay, so I actually did it once, and I remember the process sucked. Okay, especially as a traveler and me having multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Each company has like a brokerage, and it's so annoying having to transfer the money to. I try to transfer it to Fidelity or Vanguard, which are pretty easy, but it's so annoying. You have to fill out all this paperwork, send it through the mail, and one of them was pretty easy to do, but now I have to do that with my last travel job. Then I'm gonna have to do it with this travel job, but I'll get to it eventually.
But you know what? You're talking about the 401k or 403b. This is different with the backdoor Roth IRA. That's when you invest your after-tax income. So you can just open up a Fidelity account and do it through Fidelity, where you'll open up, like, let's say, a traditional IRA, and then you'll transfer it over. So it's like a few clicks of a button. That's actually easier, and you need to look into that because you could have way more money, and then you can pick your investments also. So let's say you just want to pick index funds and you want to pick like a total stock market index fund. You can do that, and you don't have to transfer it anytime you move from one contract to the next or one agency to the next. That's different. So look into that, and you'll be able to save a lot more and invest a lot more money that way.
All right, I might have misread something, but I'll look into it.
Especially now because you're still young. Yeah, exactly, right? So Aside from your investments with your retirement accounts, do you have any real estate that you're planning to own or that you currently own?
So a big portion of what I'm trying to save for is a house. Right now that I'm thinking I'm trying to be a traveler, at least in my 20s, maybe get a house. And I don't think that's going to happen in the Bay Area. Housing is way too expensive. I've been looking at
Yeah.
Sacramento time as far as housing goes. I could afford something really good on my own. But as of now, I do not have a house. I do help my parents who have a couple houses that they rent out. So I sent them some money to loan out to have some liquidity on renovating property that they have. But as far as I'm aware, I'm gonna say that that's a investment as far as future inheritance goes.
So what are your monthly expenses like? You mentioned that you pay around $2,000 for your room. What about groceries? You said you don't have any student loans. Do you travel? What other expenses do you have?
As far as average grocery bill goes, it's about $430 a month. I saw a video where you said you pay like what? I remember I was mind blown. I was like, I think I spent half of that just on my own. But
yeah, it's like $833.
I'm a pretty healthy eater as far as that goes. I like to work out, watch my health. Transportation, gas, I'm spending about $150 a week. That includes insurance, all that. Gym membership, about $120, $130. Personal, probably like $200 a month on personal items. Also, as a travel nurse, I have to have a home base in Georgia where I live. I return to Georgia often, because that's where all my stuff is at. So I have a second place over there that I'm paying $650 a month for.
Okay.
I was paying an apartment? $1,100. Yeah, it's basically like an apartment, but it's a room in an apartment.
So all in all, you're spending about what is that, like $3,500 or so per month on your living expenses?
About $4,500. There's a couple of things here and there that I spend on. Nothing significant.
So what's your average take-home pay per month or biweekly?
The past few months, not including this month, my average monthly gross pay is $22,000. My weekly net pay would be $4,100.
$4,100. Wow. And that's take home, correct?
Yeah, that's take home. That's net pay. So after my 401k, taxes, that's about $16,000, $17,000 a month.
Yeah, it's for about $4,100, $4,000. Oh, you said, that's a week.
Yeah, that's a week.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Dude, that's insane, man. And you're 27 years old.
Yeah, it's actually a really blessed situation to be in.
Yeah, because
increase my savings right there.
Yeah, man. So I get it that, you're able to save so much because you have so much money flowing in. You're like, what do I do with it? I'm like, okay, I'll just stash it away and just keep saving it. At the end of the day, you're bringing home like $17,000 after taxes every month. Yeah. And then if you subtract your living expenses, you're still left with like at least 12 to 13,000.
Something like that. 12,000 sounds like a good number.
So what kind of car do you drive?
So I've actually been driving the same car, I keep saying this to myself, all right, I'll get a new car once I turn 30. I've been driving a Mazda 3 that I've had since I was 19. That's basically been in like 5-6 car accidents where only one was my fault. All the other ones were not my fault. So I've been driving that car, it's pretty beat up at this. I mean, not visibly beat up, but it's beat up at this point.
You're telling me you don't own a Lamborghini? You're not Lambo?
No, I'm not a Lambo. And another thing, the reason I want to keep this car is, especially when I was in Chicago, they broke down my window and they tried to, I guess on Christmas Day when I was in Chicago, they broke my window thinking I had presents in there. And, I probably would have been way more upset if it was a car, I guess I was really happy to own, like a really nice car. But then I was like, oh, this sucks. But it's it's a $6,000 car and I got it fixed for like less than 100. So I was like, okay, this sucks, but whatever.
Yeah. Monica and I, we own a Volvo XC90. It's an SUV. And that's the most expensive car we've ever purchased. And initially I had regrets. I'm like, man, this thing is too expensive. I don't even know why we paid this much for this car. Because we paid like $70,000, $72,000 for it. Ugh. But now we tell ourselves, we're like, do we really even need an expensive car? We really don't. There was one day Monica came home and I walked in the garage after she parked the car in the garage. And I saw that there was like a huge scuff mark on the right side of the passenger side. And I'm like, did you just like crash into the garage while you were backing into it? And had it been like when we first purchased the car, I would have been like, oh man, I would have been so upset. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't care. You could there could be dents all over this car and I won't care. Like, I'm not trying to drive a fancy car anymore. I really don't care about that. So our next next car is going to be like something that we can drive that fits the family. I don't care how inexpensive it is, but we just want it to be able to take us from point A to point B.
That's how I view my car too. You hit a curb, oh, that sucks. I don't worry about it. I like having that, like not having to worry about my car. Like if someone were to like steal my car or whatever, I'd be like, that sucks. Well, time to get a new car. Like I'm somewhat attached to my car, but not like, it's not a worry in the back of my head. Like whatever happens to my car happens.
So what plans do you have with your traveling job? Do you want to continue traveling for a long period of time, or do you want to become a staff nurse eventually?
So right now I want to travel at least while I'm in my 20s. So that gives me at least 2 more years since I'm about to turn 28. I saw you post the other day where what Stanford nurses make due to the update, but this was like with 30 years experience, but I imagine this also has to do with the steps and all that. I'm like, dang, should I just go ahead and get like a union job and start building seniority, or should I just, or should I take this? I mean, traveling is still slightly higher pay, but I'm like, okay, if I'm thinking long term, is it better to go ahead and take a unionized job? So now I'm in that dilemma. But as of now, we'll do it till I'm 30.
That is like, it's not common for nurses to make that much, but a lot of the nurses in the Bay Area do earn that much. And here's the thing though, like the salary that you saw at Stanford, that's for a per diem nurse working 30 years night shift, 40 hours a week, right? But you can earn that much without having 30 years of experience, because you can play it smart and just pick up overtime on your days on or come in on your days off. And again, I work with so many nurses that their average yearly is 300,000. That's so common in the hospital that I work in. And they're all staff, and they don't have like 30 years of experience either. Like I worked with a nurse that just started with us, a year to a year and a half. And this was during the height of COVID. They started giving us more overtime. His wife is also a nurse. Within 1 year, him and his wife combined made like almost 600,000 actually. So
that's a really good number. People say the Bay Area is expensive, but if you're making that much, you're not worried about much. You could afford real estate on that much.
Exactly, because even after taxes, even after all of your expenses, when you're making that much money, you still have several thousands of dollars that you can invest in other places to grow your income. So after one contract is over, do you usually have another contract lined up, or do you wait in between?
Actually, we'll try and find a contract to follow it. I might be like, hey, can I get a week off before I start this next one? So as of now, what I usually do is I'll find a contract. If I like the hospital, I'll stay and extend for another 13 weeks. I'll be like, hey, can I get this week off in between? And they usually let me. If they don't want to lose people. People are short everywhere.
Yeah, because a lot of the fear that people have who want to get into nursing but don't is they're afraid that there might be a large gap of employment in between their contracts. So they're afraid that, when they go to renew a contract or extend their contract, it might not be available. Has that been the case for anybody you've known who's been a traveler?
So I think that's a bigger deal for people who do what's called ghoul traveling, where they can only travel, I guess, within, the area they live in. As far as personally knowing anybody, no, but I've read about it online. Luckily, as a single young dude, I could go anywhere. And so jobs are available. If I couldn't find a job in Chicago, well, I was going to go to California either ways. California is huge. There's San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Bay Area. There's so many places to choose from. So
did you have a hard time getting?
Oh, no, I did not have a hard time. Getting here or finding a job?
Yeah, getting a license here. Did you have a hard time with that?
Oh, so actually, I remember on a different Discord server, someone had posted a link to one of your videos. It was probably October of last year. You had talked about getting your California license, and then you said it would take a while. I was like, I think the next week I had done my fingerprints. I had sent, it was a couple $100s. I know that. I was like, well, let's get this rolling. I'm going to eventually get to California. At that point, I was like, okay, my goal is to get to California by summer of 2022. I got here summer 2022. I got my California license in February or March, so about 3 months waiting.
Yeah, similar to us. It took like a couple of months for us, but that was actually I think the second video I posted on my channel. So that was a long time ago. I'm surprised anybody actually shares that video, because I thought, in my opinion, I'm like, that's one of the worst videos I have. But it is helpful because it lays
Hey,
out the step-by-step process.
lot of information in that video.
Yeah,
I think I watched
cool.
it at least 3 times to make sure I got it all down. I
That's
mean, you
funny.
don't have to watch it, but you could hear it and you still get a lot of
Yeah,
the information,
true, true. Yeah,
I know I skipped the
awesome.
step where you had to go to California, but I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm not in that much of a rush to get to California just yet.
yeah,
So I was like,
yeah.
whatever.
Do you regret moving here at all? Is there anything that you dislike about California?
Besides this heat wave and not having AC the past few days,
Yeah,
California has been pretty good
yeah,
for me so far. Every other day has been nice. The Bay Area has a nice breeze where you needed AC besides the past few days. I like the vibe. I feel like I fit right in.
And a lot of people that are thinking about moving to California, they're afraid because they think that all they see is like the crime is high in California. Have you personally witnessed any crime, or have you been a victim of crime where you live?
I have not been a victim of crime in as far as I've been here in the Bay Area, but I feel like I'm in a pretty decent area. But when I did go to San Francisco last weekend, I had stepped out. I think I was on 16th and Mission
Oh,
Street,
that's it.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I was like, where am I?
yeah,
This is like
yeah,
I thought San Francisco was like gonna be really pretty. It was on the train
yeah.
ride there, and then I was
Yeah.
like, I saw so many, I guess, people doing drugs. I saw a guy
Oh, yeah,
showering himself, and I was like, okay. But then I started walking,
yeah,
and eventually. But that was my first in real life view of San Francisco, and
yeah,
I was like, Jesus, were these people right? But actually,
yeah. I saw.
it's actually not as bad, once you get out of like certain areas,
Yeah. I saw a video posted on Reddit just 2 days ago, I think it was, where someone was recording all these homeless people on drugs in the
Yeah,
streets by Mission Street also. So as soon as you said Mission, I'm like, yeah, I know that area very
yeah,
well. Because also I've driven through there, and man, it's like a zombie apocalypse when you walk through
yeah.
there because these people are walking around all drugged up. It's pretty
It's
bad in
it,
some of those areas.
it's an unfortunate situation, but
Yeah.
it was just what the heck? Where am I? Like this is.
Yeah.
But basically, I haven't been victimized here
Yeah.
since I've
Yeah.
been here. So
Cool.
let's keep that up.
Yeah. So if you have any advice for travelers or for nurses wanting to get into traveling, what would it be?
Oh, you have to be prepared to get in there, be a sponge, and go with the flow with the unit. I mean, obviously, don't do anything that's illegal or dangerous, but different units have their own way of doing it. They don't want to hear people be like, "Well, back home, this is how we did this."
Yeah. Yeah.
You basically have to have that friendly smile and face and be able to work with everyone. You don't want to be known as the traveler on your unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's basically just having good social skills, making sure people need help, you're helping. Because a lot of places, this is not as bad, I guess, a deal in the Bay Area since nurses get paid pretty good here. But from what I remember on my unit in Atlanta, a lot of the nurses have they get paid double what I get paid. So why should I be doing this? Or, there's a lot of resent or
A lot of animosity towards
yeah.
nurses like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
luckily I haven't personally experienced that since I try to help out as much as I can since I'm usually a pretty energetic person who's trying to get things moving.
yeah, the question I'm often asked also by nurses, new nurses especially, is, "Hey, can I be like a new grad and get into traveling?" What would you say to those type of nurses?
I read about that too, and I'm just like, how? Like, so
Yeah.
another thing that people don't realize when you have, I guess, a staff job you have been at for a long time, you know where everything's at. You know who to ask for what. You know which numbers to call. You get used to
Yes.
that. As a
Yeah.
traveler, I don't get that. I have to walk in, get a few days orientation, start knowing where things are at quickly, and I've been here 3 months. I still don't know 100% everything. And so you're losing out on your efficiency, and depending on the charting system, be an efficient charter. You have to because some places want you to chart this, but other places are like, oh, that doesn't matter or whatever. So you're losing out on that.
That's true.
You're losing out on the people say this situation happens, to call this person. Well, you're at this hospital now. Who do I call now? I don't know if you've experienced that once you get to somewhere new.
Absolutely.
You lose out on that stuff. Even the supply rooms change. Say like a ACE wrap might have been up here in this particular section. Well, now it's down here, and now I got to remember that it's down there, and not get used to reaching up.
Yeah, I'm telling you got to be at the top of your game to be a traveler, in my opinion, because you have to be willing to adapt to a new environment every 8 to 13 weeks.
that's basically it. Being adaptable is the biggest thing. Being adaptable, quick to learn, just being fast in general. But you know, actually, before I was a traveler, there was a travel nurse on my unit that was not quick on picking stuff up, and I'm like, well, they could do it, and you know, I don't want to be. I didn't say it, but I was thinking in my head, well, if they could do it, and I think I'm pretty quick at picking up. Why not?
Well, you made it. Look where you are now.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So, dude, thanks so much for being on this video with me. You know, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be appreciative of all the content you've provided, all the information you've given. But, you know, for those of you that want more advice and want more help, I recommend you guys go on our Discord server because, you know, Les is on the Discord server along with so many other people that help each other out. And I think it's a small community right now, but I think like it's pretty cool because we're always giving each other advice and making each other laugh. So I really like it there. All right, Les. So I'm going to end the call here and I'll see you on the Discord server, man. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you guys are going to like our other Road to Fire videos. So make sure you click on this video here.